Welcome back to Homeopathy at Home with Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Bree, so good to be here with you again.
Yeah, it's been a little while since we recorded, so this is exciting. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're headed into spring and we want to talk about bites and stings so that you guys are ready with all your remedies.
Yeah, so before we do that, we wanted to tell you guys about something new that Melissa is putting out. You've probably seen it on social media. I think they'll all be put out as a bundle after we post them. Is that right?
What do you mean?
Okay, so what I'm talking about is our 50 top remedies flashcards.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us how you created them, what you created them from, and all the little details, so I don't mix anything up.
So it's 50. It's actually 51 flashcards because I added aconite and bryonia in there as a flashcard. So you can download these flashcards. I think they're $7.99. I should have looked to see how much they are.
And I meant bundle, like you purchase them all 51. You're not buying one as they come out on Instagram or whatever.
That's right.
You get the full package.
So what you're talking about so my 50 top remedies YouTube videos and they're on my YouTube channel and they're on the playlist called 50 top remedies. I made flashcards to go along with that, and the flashcards you can buy from my website and you can download and you can print them, and they're beautiful, of course, because I love beauty. And and I did make them black and white, so you wouldn't have to spend a lot on color printing, but they're still beautiful. And so to help you study, so you could punch holes you could laminate them, punch holes in them, and put them on a ring, and really just study the remedies. You can study the remedies with those, and I encourage you to do that. You can also just use them as a reference. If something's happening, like an acute situation, it's almost like my acute mouse pad. So this is my acute care mouse pad. And so I have it on my desk. So if something happens, you can look down at your mouse pad, and that's on my website also. But I also have the magnets that can stick on your refrigerator. So just different ways to have resources ready. And the flashcards are great for studying. So you go to my website, go to the store, the online store, and you can find those there. And
they are $7.99, like you said.
Thank you for looking.
So it's really affordable. And it does have a lot more on it than the magnet. I mean, it's a lot of remedies. So I love that. And I love laminating. I've gotten a little crazy about laminating since I started homeschooling.
Oh, Mom. Yep.
Yep. My laminator.
I think it actually has more than 51 cards, because I also have the mucus color key on there. And yeah, so anyway, there's a few little extras on there.
What size are they formatted to?
They're like business card. No, I think they're a little bit bigger. I don't know. Isn't that terrible? Yeah. They're not. I should know that.
Maybe like index card-ish.
I was going to say index card-ish or small.
Like 5x7 is pretty big.
Yeah, not huge.
Okay.
Yeah, small.
Ooh, that's fun.
Okay.
I've also had a couple people reach out to me for high schoolers, teenagers wanting to learn. Oh yeah, show them. You have them right there?
No, this is just the magnet. Maybe they're about this size, like a postcard size.
Okay. Yeah. Fun. I was just going to say that some people reached out about their teenagers wanting to learn, and that's a great way. You can send it with them. They can practice.
Absolutely.
And they're simple. So
yeah, I love it. So tonight we're going to talk about bites and stings. I want you guys to be ready, since spring is right around the corner. And in fact, in the warmer climates, you're already there, and it's already, you're already having bugs. You're already getting outside more often. The sun is out. We've been cooped up all winter. We want to get outside. So
it's beach season here.
Yes, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. It's still chilly in North Carolina in March, but it's coming. real soon.
Yep.
So first of all, I'm going to talk about the biggest remedy first, which is Leadum. If you get bitten by anything, you use Leadum, anything. So you can use it in a 30 or 200C. Remember to meet the intensity of the condition with the frequency of the dosing. So depending on how bad the bite or the sting is, how bad the pain is, how bad the itching is, you can use it more or less often. Leadum is especially important when it comes to Lyme disease. So I have a whole podcast episode on Lyme. It's called Leadum and Lyme. And you should definitely check that out. This is the time of year also, as ticks, as we start getting outside again, the spring and summer coming. You want to be sure to remove ticks within the first 12 hours. If you do get a tick on you, borreliosis is a subdivision of the syphilis bacteria, so it can cause enormous health problems. Everybody knows this. Lyme has just been such a big deal over the last several years, and it can cause things like chronic inflammation of the heart, fibromyalgia, autoimmune response, rheumatoid arthritis, arthritic problems, and so on and so on and so on, fatigue. I help so many people with Lyme disease. And then, your warning sign is the red target looking, you've got the red with the red dot.
Bullseye.
The bullseye, yes. So Leadum keeps the bite in check, so it acts fast and stops the worsening of the pain, the itching. It stops it from getting worse. Leadum is great for painful wounds. Leadum has a lot of itching. A very peculiar symptom of Leadum, which really helps me to memorize, it helps me to remember Leadum, is that there's a sensation of coldness at the entry point of the bite. So it feels cold when you touch it.
Okay. So it's not just like you think your body reads it as cold. It literally feels cold.
I think it feels cold to touch, but also, yes, it feels cold to the person, like, right there. It feels cold. That
is interesting because usually bites, you would think they get hot. Injuries get hot.
Yeah, hot and itchy. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Leadum is cold. So, but also it feels cold, but the person wants a cold application, which is odd, right? Normally we want the opposite thing
of what it is. Yeah.
And it's red. It looks like it would be hot because it's red and inflamed, but it's cold, which is just so, so different. It can be neutral to touch. It might be red and neutral, just
like
regular
body temperature.
This is the first remedy to use when you suspect tetanus or in a situation where tetanus could develop. So Leadum is number one for deep puncture wounds. So anytime you have a puncture wound, you think of Leadum. And tetanus is only activated in anaerobic conditions. Anaerobic means there's no oxygen. So we need that wound to bleed, right? You get punctured by something, or you think there could be an tetanus, you want to let it bleed or make it bleed. So I had an example of that years ago. I got a wound, and just out of, I don't know what it was, habit, or I just wasn't thinking, I stopped you probably didn't hear that, did you?
No, you said at the same time as the
mark. I stopped the bleeding, and then all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, I need for this to bleed. So then I had to make it start again, which wasn't that fun.
It's not great. I've heard that too about dog bites, or just things where you get hurt and it doesn't bleed. Even bacteria other than tetanus.
Yeah.
Can cause infection if it heals closed with the bacteria inside. I always tell my boys to look for like a good amount of blood where it's cleaning out versus emergency amount of blood if you think it's just not stopping.
Good. That's really good advice. So if you make mistakes in wound care, you can develop tetanus. You can clean it with tap water. Don't close it like we just talked about, and let it bleed. So Leadum is very useful in flea bites where there's unbearable itching. You can take Leadum prophylactically if you're very sensitive to bites.
I saw this. Does this mean even mosquitoes? Would you read it that way? Or what else would you be very sensitive to a bite from? Like,
Yeah, it just says bites. So yeah, I would think any kind of, if you're, so, you know, we often recommend Staph aureus.
yeah,
It can help prevent if you're really prone to getting bitten, but it looks like here that
maybe
Leadum.
this could too.
Mm-hmm.
And for, I'm assuming flea bites also for animals,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
not just for humans, but when they're itchy.
Mm-hmm. If they're flea bites, yep. So let's see. Let me.
Looks like we covered most of Leadum.
Stings. Yeah, that's right. Better with cold applications. The person does not want the wound to be covered and they don't want anything warm near it. Okay. You want to do urtica?
Yeah, Urtica is, so the rest of these are not quite as long as Leadum, but still great ones to have on hand. Also, I notice a lot of these are going to be in kits if you purchase a kit. I think
Awesome.
most of these will be in there.
Yeah.
Urtica urens is the stinging nettle. So this one is great to apply for stings by bees or spiders, especially when a nettle-like rash appears after. So that's like that. Isn't the nettle one like little tiny, tiny little red dots that spreads?
I think so.
I think so. I think so.
Mhm.
This is good for the stings that stay local and has redness, but stays at the point of the sting. Those ones are likely Leadum. Sorry, I kind of said that mixed up. If it stays localized and red at the source, it's likely more of a Leadum type of sting. If it has a rash spread out from there, then maybe try Urtica. It has lots of itching and burning. Like if you've ever touched stinging nettle, I only have one time and it wasn't extreme. But if you have, you know what I'm talking about. It does itch and burn. So you could even take that if you were to encounter nettle like out in your yard. This is also good for flea bites, but keep in mind that it has that rash with it. So it might spread. This can also be used with salt water, and you can add hypericum and then apply it externally. I thought that was very cool.
That is cool. Mm-hmm.
So that to add it with salt water is unique.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. I want to say, so the nettle rash is actually, it's red on the skin and it's got the raised whitish or skin colored bumps. So they're usually the bumps, the raised part is lighter in color. You should look up the,
Yeah.
to the people that are listening to or watching this, look up the stinging nettle rash and see what it looks like. And there's a stinging sensation that's usually felt, and it feels itchy. And so when you come in contact with the stinging nettle, the plant, there can be tightness of the chest or throat, difficulty breathing, wheezing, swelling in the mouth, including the tongue or lips.
Wow.
Stomach cramps, vomiting, and diarrhea.
Well, if you eat it or if you just come in contact with it?
Says the symptoms of a severe allergic reaction. So those would be
So when you're allergic, maybe.
Mhm.
I feel like I've also heard of stinging nettle being used in herbal teas and tinctures for hormone support. So that's why I was like, that's crazy. It must be allergic. When you're allergic, it responds that way, or with the outside of it. I don't think you're drinking the part that gives you that reaction, obviously.
Awesome. So apis is a big one that most people know. And yes, it's probably in every kit. I mean, really. So apis is made from the honeybee. We have to remember that these remedies have been around for hundreds of years. So it's not that we're crushing up honeybees for every bottle of apis. So I know people could be concerned about that. It literally was one honeybee that they used hundreds of years ago, and we are making that remedy over and over and over again. It keeps being used. Now, I mean, of course, there could be, a person or a pharmacy that makes a new remedy from the honeybee, but we're not crushing honeybees for every bottle of apis. So apis has stinging pains, swollen, sensitive, and sore skin, rapid swelling of the bite, sting, or wound. Apis has a shiny surface like edema. Edema is swelling, and has a water collection underneath, so like blistery. Apis is hot to the touch, unlike Leadum, which is cold to the touch. Apis has burning pains that are better with cold applications and worse for warmth or heat. They don't want warmth or heat near it. Apis is great for anaphylaxis. So if you're having an anaphylactic reaction to a food or anything, or a bee sting or a bite, you could take apis. Apis might be very thirsty, feel drowsy, apathetic, fatigued, worse for touch. They're highly sensitive, and better for open air. And this is especially useful in bee and wasp stings and other insect bites where there's burning, itching, swelling, edema. So those are your keynotes.
That is what works well for my mosquito bites. Mine get enormous like that. But also I know we said allergic reactions, so hives, when people, even if you don't know, I see a lot on the mom groups on Facebook, I often see that, like, there's this weird hives rash that my kid woke up with. I don't know what it came from. You can still use these remedies in that situation, even if you don't know it was an allergic reaction or what it was to. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to have a perfect diagnosis to treat that rash if it does come up.
Yes, thank you.
Do you want me to do Cantharus?
Cool.
Okay, I didn't realize that Cantharus is from a green beetle. So Cantharus is made from a beetle. These are good for bites or stings with intense redness, accompanied by stinging pains that burn, like in cystitis. So if you are familiar, we did a podcast on this, but if you haven't listened to that, Cantharus is a great one for UTI or cystitis and that pain. So any of that burning and a sting or a bite, it can form blisters. Again, lots of burning and itching. Good for horsefly stings. Okay, those hurt.
Have you been stung?
Yes, we had those at the campground we used to go to growing up. Man. Those things, they hurt. I wish I would have known this stuff back then.
I know, right?
Yeah, I really wish I did. They're great for the really painful, burning, itching bites. And if you live in Florida, I don't know if they're anywhere else, we have these things called yellow flies. I think it's called that yellow horsefly, maybe. I'm talking people at my church get bites like huge. I don't know if you can see. It's like a piece of salami is what I'm doing, if you're listening. And they're very painful. I would not have thought Cantharus until this just reminded me that stinging and burning.
Wow.
I'll try it.
Yeah. Okay, so Tarentula. Tarentula, it is spelled with an E, Tarentula, is made from the tarantula spider.
This one always creeps me out.
It is creepy.
Every time we talk about this remedy.
And it is such a great remedy. So probably on a Materia Medica Monday at some point in the future, we're going to do Tarentula because it's a great remedy. So for bites and stings, you can use it for that blue and dark discoloration. Spider and snake bites that are very painful, lots of itching. with great restlessness and want to move. So that's the interesting thing about the tarantula.
tarantula.
Yeah, they're always wanting to move.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk about tarantula and
Yeah.
the material. It's very interesting. And tarantula can be an antidote to spider bites. So quick, I hope encouragement. So I told this little story in a class recently, but I had some big, huge bite on my neck. I woke up with it in the
Yeah.
morning. Something bit me in the middle of the night. So then you usually think, probably a spider or something bit you in the middle of the night, right? I mean, what else?
So creepy, but yes.
It's creepy. So, but it was big and red and itchy, and I didn't use anything. I didn't use remedies because I don't feel like I have to throw a remedy at every single thing. If it's not disrupting my life, I just let my body do its job.
Yeah.
But if I thought for sure that was a spider bite, or if I thought, or if it was disrupting life, like I couldn't do what I needed to do because of pain or itching or whatever, then maybe I would have taken tarantula.
Yeah. Next is Hypericum. Hypericum is great if you have any suspicion of tetanus, and you would use this in conjunction with Leadum. So alternating them. And if you listen to the Leadum and Lyme podcast, we go into a lot of detail about that, and have a lot of resources in the notes and stuff. So you would rotate them. It's for the intense, unbearable nerve pain. So this would probably be more likely to happen with like a dog bite or that kind of wound, over probably an insect, but depending on how big it is. So nerve pain, think nerve pain. It has great sensitivity to touch with pain that radiates into the body. So like I mentioned before, it can be used prophylactically for tetanus. So you don't have to wait until you have tetanus symptoms necessarily. If you get a bite, you have some suspicion, it's not going to hurt to do it. But also good for the other types of pain as well.
So here's a fun fact.
Yeah, I love this.
You can apply half an onion to the insect bites, especially in the case of bees and wasps, and that can help pull the sting out and disinfect it. And I never would, I would have done tea bags, I've done tobacco, I've never done an onion.
No, I have heard that about sickness like flu or whatever. If you put them in the socks or leave an onion out, it absorbs toxins supposedly, which I've also heard you're not supposed, like if you leave an onion out for a long time, to not eat it later.
I definitely don't,
because it absorbs.
Yeah.
I mean, how long did I live my life eating old onions?
We built our immune systems.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I say about everything gross I've done. It builds immune system. It's fine.
Yeah. Belladonna is a great remedy that we absolutely love. This has rapid and violent swelling with dry heat and redness. So remember, your belladonna keynotes are red, hot, and high. So it applies to even to insect bites and stings. So there's a dry, hot burning of the skin, which hurts the hand when touched. There's no thirst. They can be apathetic. So, mentally, as a result of this bite or sting or wound, they're apathetic. They're not thirsty and can be sensitive to movement. So they don't want it to move. Maybe even just walking can cause it to hurt worse. There might be a sharp knife-like pain. So taking a good case, we ask the person to describe the pain. We don't say, is there a sharp knife-like pain?
Does it hurt when you move? Yeah.
Right. We ask the open-ended questions, not yes or no questions when you're taking the case.
Okay, next is lachesis. Lachesis is good for hot, bluish purple swellings or blue-black swellings with much prostration. It's great for mottled skin. And the tendency, when a bite has a tendency to ulcer or a tendency to inflammation, bleeding, and spreading wounds, that's pretty intense. I know some bug bites do that though. I have seen that. There may be a bluish color surrounding the wound. It's very sensitive to touch, warmth, and the pressure of dressings, which is ironic because it probably needs a dressing, but they don't want it.
So let's talk about that. Lachesis hates anything tight. Lachesis hates tight clothing.
Uh-huh. I
So,
remember that hormone stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
And PMS, we talked about that a little bit in that podcast. Hates the tight stuff. So yeah, that makes sense. And this says the next thing too, the patient may be agitated and very disconnected and random in their thoughts. They're worse for heat, but may also be aggravated by being cold or chilly. And again, that's worse for heat, touch, and pressure. So those are good keynotes to remember.
mhm. So lachesis generally is loquacious, and that means they talk a lot. So in a bite or a sting, and so really lachesis being the bushmaster snake, that's what we make it from. It's great for snake bites. So if the person gets bitten by a snake and they have some of these symptoms, right? The colors, the sensitivities, and they're just talking a lot and talking and talking.
Mm.
You're like, you need
Now,
Lachesis.
is that in the case of a bite or a sting, they start talking a lot, or could that be their general constitution?
So if it's their general constitution and we're giving this to them, if it's part of their whole picture and covers their whole
Right.
case. But in a bite or a sting, if they're loquacious, it's out of character. That's not normal for them.
Okay. So acutely using it's these out of character keynote symptoms that we're seeing. Okay.
All right. Suelex. Culex or Suelex. Starts with a C. So who knows? Could be Culex. It's made from the mosquito. So it's got the intense itching, burning like fire, local heat. First better by scratching, but then it feels worse after you scratch. I've had those.
You could have probably just said this is like a mosquito and everybody knows.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is what it is.
Yep. You scratch it and then you're like, oh, it hurts after you scratch it. Needle-like pain, worse with the slight pressure, better for strong pressure. So don't touch it lightly, touch it, press harder.
Yeah, seriously. I have mosquito bites right as we speak. So this is just a very timely podcast. Next is Caladium. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
I know a lot of these maybe sound redundant, but there are some different keynotes. So this one does have intense burning. But Caladium has irritation of the skin and mucous membranes. It can be used for smoking cessation, so it will make them sick if they do smoke. So this is kind of a side note. It doesn't have to do with bites or stings, but you can give it daily or twice a day as needed to help with that desire to smoke.
All right. So prophylaxis for bites and stings. Tetanus and rabies are your main dangers. And so hydrophobinum, 30C daily for 7 days, followed by belladonna 6C twice a day for 6 months when visiting a country where there is rabies. And I know right now everybody's like, wait, what's she saying? I'm gonna write it down. Pause it, rewind, go back. I'm gonna say it again right now. So then pause it and write it down.
Good.
Hydrophobinum 30C once per day for 7 days, followed by belladonna 6C twice per day for 6 months.
That sounds a lot. You're rethinking that one.
I am rethinking that one. So I'm reading this protocol. That this is not my protocol that I have used.
Well, it says when visiting a country where there is rabies, it may be while you're there. Like
yes.
maybe leading up to while you're there. 6 months is pretty long though for twice a day.
Really is.
Keep in mind though, you also you don't do a lot of prophylaxis. So
that's what I was gonna say. This is under the prophylaxis. So, and I wish I had a resource written down for this of where this protocol came from, and I don't. So I don't know who wrote it. You will use your discernment in that one. Hypericum, here's the still prophylaxis, Hypericum 6C for prevention of tetanus, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. So that's when you think that there's a possibility of tetanus. Bathe your wounds with Hypericum and Calendula tinctures mixed with water and soak the gauze in it. I did this with my husband's dog bites. He got bitten by a dog in several different places, and it was really bad. So I did that with him. Worked beautifully.
Did you do the homeopathic? I'm so sorry, I keep interrupting you tonight. Did you do the homeopathic like Hypericum, or did you do St. John's wort like mother tincture?
Very good question. And I did both. So I did Hypericum by mouth, homeopathic Hypericum by mouth, and I did the St. John's wort mother tincture on the wound, diluted with the calendula tincture on the wound. And I also did calendula by mouth, and of course I did Leadum. All right, Staphysagria is the victim's remedy, and these people are more susceptible to insect bites. Also good for head lice in tincture.
Jot that one down for whenever everybody needs that. That's so good.
Yep. Okay, Pulex irritans is great for fleas. So really it's a great one to give to the dog for fleas. Let me say this. Our dogs don't have fleas or ticks. We live in the country. And I fully believe it's because, and we don't give them anything, we don't put anything on them. It's because of their diet. So we feed them a raw diet. They eat raw meat and bones and ligaments, and they don't have fleas or ticks. So now when we first got Trigger, when he was a puppy, he had fleas for a little bit at first, but then it wasn't long, and we didn't have to give him anything that before they were gone. Yeah.
Maybe we need to do a little one-off podcast.
Yeah.
Where you can teach us how to feed, or just tell us what you do.
Yeah. Awesome. Leadum is a great prophylaxis. Vitamin B12, used and of course, as a supplement is a great prophylaxis for insect bites and stings. Garlic. So funny side note. So I used to wear, so when I first met my husband, I used to wear perfume, and he would say, like, he never would say, so I used to get bitten by mosquitoes and whatever. And then he was always like, you smell too good. And he would say, you got to eat more onions. You got to eat more garlic. I was like, you're so weird. I just didn't understand. I didn't know really. He was serious, but I didn't know he was serious. And I didn't know, honestly, if you're smelling good with perfume, you're going to attract them. But then really eating garlic and onions
I'm going to start cooking some up every day. I'm gonna be like, here's our garlic and onion jar.
Yep. And then neem oil with citronella. I don't know how you would use that, so you have to look that one up.
I have heard that though too. Do you want me to cover wound care? Yeah. And ulceration? So this is with homeopathic remedies. So I mean, you might need other things to go along with it, but this is just with some remedies. First line treatment, according to Clark and the Prescriber. So there's
it's a book called The Prescriber by Clark.
Okay. So first line treatment of wounds and ulcerations is Silica 6. Can be used locally in very simple ulcers. Sulfur 3. You can also use a 6 or a 30 to begin chronic cases. So this would be daily for 1 week for chronic wounds. Now, can you tell me a little bit chronic wounds?
It may be like bed sores or just wounds that aren't healing. Yeah, very slow.
This is not just insect bites.
That's right.
We're talking about just.
Well, it could have come from an insect bite. So maybe you got bitten by something, but then that wound is just like like the brown recluse. You know how it like opens and spreads?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, and then another one on that note, similar to what you did, is Calendula mother tincture. So that is not the homeopathic form.
That's right.
That's the herbal form. Another one is Hydrastas mother tinctures. This is good for ulcers that don't heal at all. Usually venous or venous ulcers. I'm not sure how the proper pronouncement of that word is. On the lower leg. So
Mm,
when there's not enough blood supply to the wound, so the ulcer cannot heal. So you see this in old, I'm having moments in my mind, I'm putting things together. That's why I'm reading so slow. You see this often in older people and people with diabetes.
yep.
Another for closed wounds that are infected and have pus, you can open with silica or Hepar sulf if there's an abscess. You can alternate the two, but Hepar sulf is usually used after silica has opened it. I've also seen that used with acne. Off topic, but the same when it comes up, using silica at that point and then keeping up with Hepar sulf. Hamamelis 6 is great for varicose ulcers with great sensitivity. This is when varicose veins are infected and inflamed, so they may even be bleeding. Arsenicum 6 for painful burning ulcers, even late stage ulcers where gangrene will set in. Phosphorus 6 is great for punched out ulcers. I know exactly I can picture that. Ulcers that bleed or that are surrounded by smaller ulcers. And Crotalus horridus. Is that correct? Horridus?
Yep.
It's good for wounds with sloughing. So that's that when it kind of like sheds, right? So the dirty yellow substance, a wound that doesn't clean, or phagedenic ulcers. I'm not sure what that word means. I'm gonna look that up. They use words like that sometimes. Do you know what that means?
I don't. I'll go look it up.
Or a snake bite. So I'm gonna look up what that means.
Which one? Phagedenic?
Yeah.
Okay. So while you're looking that up, I'll say that Crotalus horridus is a snake. And so, yes, it's great for snake bite. It's in my snake bite kit, Crotalus horridus. I have that in my snake bite kit. And when I say kit, I built this kit myself. I bought the snake bite remedies and they're together.
Okay. Okay. It just means a severe, destructive, eroding ulcer.
Okay.
So it's just intense.
Good.
Yep. Okay, are all of these next ones just other good random remedies, or are these good for snake bites?
I believe that these are other wound and ulcerative remedies. And so this is just a list of remedies that Bree's going to read, and you'll just go and read them, write them down and read them and get to know them. And so you'll know which one you need.
Okay, so we have Apis, Arnica, Belladonna, Calendula, Hypericum, Lachesis, Leadum, Phosphorus, Pulsatilla, and sulfuric acid.
Right. So as kind of a recap, your top 4 bite and sting remedies are Apis, Arnica, Hypericum, and Leadum. Even though we didn't break Arnica down in this, what we just talked about, it's still a great bite and sting remedy. So, and then just some random, how sometimes we like to throw some random things in there. If you get bitten by a dog, of course I would do Leadum, but you might also do Lycinum. And so that is to protect against rabies. If you get bitten by poisonous animals, then Gentiana luteum or Leadum. Remember, Leadum is bitten by anything. Snakes, Lachesis or Leadum. Cuts, Arnica, Leadum, Staphysagria. I would also throw Calendula in there. Wounds from foreign bodies, Silica. Gangrene is Arsenicum or Lachesis. And then wounds that heal really slowly, Hepersulf, Lachesis, nitric acid, petroleum, silica, and I would say sulfur. I would throw sulfur in there too, is a great one for wounds that heal really slowly. So let's see.
Now, this might be a totally one-off random question, but some of these resurfacing wounds, could that even be women breastfeeding with like ulcering sore nipples, some of these things?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That is a off topic, but for those of you listening, maybe we're thinking about for some that you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. So silica can have ulcers with stinging pain, often deep with raised edges, sensitive, spongy, deep ulcers, discharges very offensive, and redness of areola, which is, that's the dark part around the nipple. Hard to heal, pus, scanty, acrid, corroding. Yeah, look at there. You saw that before.
That is funny. Yeah. I have it on my mind. I'm, pregnancy and delivery and all those things.
So lacerations, which I really, when I think cuts and lacerations, I feel like they're the same. Are they not? So, I mean, I think maybe a laceration could be deeper.
Or is a cut like cut and a laceration is like I don't know.
So a laceration, we've got calendula or carbolic acid. And so for painful wounds, remember hypericum, staphysagria, those both have pain. Penetrating punctured wounds, apis, Leadum, nitric acid. Remember, guys, I know we're going through these fast, and also remember that these podcast episodes are transcribed onto the blog on my website. So go to the blog and you can find all of this, so you don't have to frantically write. And so puncture wounds in the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, you would think hypericum, plantago, and plantago major. Stab wounds would be hypericum and Leadum. And that's it.
I did have one comment on Facebook about homeopathic garlic as a preventative for things.
Never would have thought of it. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so we don't know, but that might be cool.
Yeah, somebody should try it and tell us.
Yeah, please let us know.
Try homeopathic garlic this year. Please write, comment, wherever you're watching this or listening to this. Email me if you want to, melissa@melissacrenshaw.com. I would love to hear about that.
And if your friends stop wanting to hang out with you because you smell like garlic, also let us know.
Really, because who would not like to smell garlic? I love the smell of garlic.
I mean, I like garlic. I don't know if I like smelling garlic breath like all the time.
Like, you don't want to go on a date and smell like garlic?
I'll be like, hi. And they're like, oh my word, it's a little much. Okay, anyways, back on task.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. And we will see you guys next time.